All right, hello. We're going to talk now about measures of central tendency in this next video. What is a measure of central tendency? Well, we use these all the time. We just don't call them measures of central tendency. We typically refer to them as the mean, median, and mode. All right, or in other words, average. Okay, so we're looking to find out what is average. So there's two parts to this when it comes to measures of central tendency. The first thing we're going to talk about is what is average and how do we calculate averages. Once that's done, we're going to look at how far away from the average we are, and that's measures of variance. So there's two parts to this. What's average will be the first part, and how do we find out what's average? And then the second part of it will be how far away from the average you are. So you can basically be above average, below average, or actually be average. So that's what we're going to talk about in this module over 2 videos. So we have our 3 types of averages. We have our mode, our median, and our mean. The mode is a piece of data that occurs the most frequently. If no single data point occurs most frequently, then the data set has no mode. There could be more than one mode. You could have bimodal data, trimodal data. I tend to just stop after bimodal. I could say that there's a tie for the 2 first place data values, but I tend not to go beyond that because I just think it's ridiculous. It's like those participation trophies that, everybody's a winner. It's not like that when it comes to modes, in my opinion. So, stop at 2. If you have a 3-way tie, then there's no mode, nobody wins. All right. The median is the data that's in the middle when it's arranged in order. So it has to be in ascending order, and then you find the one that's in the middle. All right. If there's an odd amount of data, then you'll have a perfectly middle point. If you have an even amount of data, then what you do is you take the mean of the 2 middle points. So the sum of the middle 2 data points divided by 2 is your median. And then the mean, which is mu, is the sum of data over sample size, or x bar, which is the sum of data divided by the sample size. So it's when you basically add them up, sum of data divided by the amount of data. Okay. So here you notice I introduced 2 new variables. Okay. So let's just take a quick moment to talk about those. So mu is the population mean. X bar is the sample mean. Okay. Uppercase N is the population size. Lowercase n is a sample size. Okay. So those 4 variables are always going to mean the same thing. All right, and that right here, this is mu, mu, mu. All right, it's a Greek letter. Okay, so when we're talking about population means, mu is the sum of x divided by n. X bar is the sum of x divided by lowercase n. It's really the same formula. One you're dividing by population size, the other one you're dividing by sample size. Either way, it's the sum of all your data divided by your data. Now, some of you at home may be wondering what this guy is. This is an uppercase sigma. And basically what it means is sum. All right. It's a summation, but it means add all the data. And x is our data point. Okay. So The nice thing about the mean is it's the most representative. It's the only measure of central tendency that takes all the data into consideration, okay? Thus making it the most accurate. And for most of our work, we'll be using mean, all right? We don't really use median and mode very often in this course. So the sample mean, I already said, is x bar. It's sigma x divided by lowercase n. Population mean is mu, which is sigma x divided by uppercase n. Now, there's another type of mean referred to as a weighted average, okay, where W equals weight. So the weighted average is the sum of W times X divided by the sum of W. I think this is best explained with an example, but, and I've got one set up for that, but this is how your GPA is calculated, because like this is a math course worth 3 credits, so it counts 3 times, whereas your lab science courses have that lab associated with them, so they count 4 times because they're 4 credits. So when it comes time to which class is going to impact your GPA more, it's the science 4 credit course is going to impact your grade more than the math class. If you're taking a 1 credit freshman seminar, or I know when I was in college, there was a 1 credit library science course we had to take. And I mean, the library science class really had no bearing on your GPA whatsoever because it was only worth 1 credit. So it didn't really matter. So we've got some examples here, all right? And what I'd like to do with these examples is try to show you how to do these in the calculator, all right? Because if the calculator existed when I was taking stats, I may have actually enjoyed it. So what we're given here in our first example is 20 randomly selected pro football players. We're going to calculate the mean, the median, and mode of their ages, okay? So what we're going to do, and the directions for this are on the next page. All right, so we're going to enter the data into the list using stat edit list 1. Oh, let me move it down a little bit. Enter the data into the list in the calculator using stat edit list 1. So the way that looks is on your calculator right here, you've got the stat button. You're going to press stat, and then it's already got edit highlighted. We're going to hit enter, and then we're going to go into list 1. I have stuff in my list. So I'm going to press the up arrow to highlight list 1. I'm going to press clear, and then I'm going to press enter, and that will clear out my list. It will get rid of all the data that's in there. So back to the problem at hand. So I'll get this. So there we are. So I'm going to type the data into the list. So 24, 23, 25, 24, 23, 25, 23, 30, 29, 28, so we have 29, 31, 20. I like to double check my list. Make sure everything's typed in right. 37, 24, 29. Okay, good, we're all set. Okay, so now we're going to go back to stat, calc, and we're going to do one var stats. All right, now I'm using a TI-84 plus. So if you're using the TI-84 plus, it's going to ask you for a list, a frequency list, and then calculate. So we're not doing anything with the frequency list. The frequency list would be used if we were doing a weighted average. Okay, so since we're not doing that, I'm not going to worry about that. And then just go down to calculate. And there you go. So what this does now is that it just told us that our mean X bar is 27.05, okay? The calculator will always tell us X bar, all right? Because the calculator doesn't know if you're entering sample data or population data. So you need to be smarter than the calculator, okay? So this is the age of 20 randomly selected pro football players. I know I'm dealing with a sample because there's a lot more than 20 pro football players in the league or in the world. So I'm dealing with a sample of 20. So 2705 is my sample mean, all right? Now there's other information here, and I'll get to all that in a second. X bar, sigma x here is the sum of all the data. That's the sum of all the data squared. These are standard deviations. I'll talk about those in the second half of the videos. N, 20, is our sample size. It gives us our minimum value, our quartile values. It also gives us the median. So we found out that our mean is 27.05. We know our median is 37. It also gives us our third quartile and our max. So if you took descriptive stats, you know what the quartiles are, and we'll talk about those in a later module as well. So it gives you a lot of information on this one page. However, what it doesn't do is give you the mode. Okay, the mode we're stuck having to figure out on our own. Okay, so to figure out the mode, we're just going to look at our data. What number shows up the most often? 1, 2, 3. So 23 is 3 times. Am I missing a 23? No. 29 shows up 3 times. Oh, 25 shows up 3 times. So I'm going to say mode is none. There is no mode because I've got that 3-way tie and I'm not going to waste my time, effort, and energy going after that. Okay. So back here are my step-by-step instructions on how to do this in the calculator. Okay, and there's also the mean and the median are provided. X bar is the mean. You'll need to know in advance if you're dealing with a sample or a population. So that I've already talked about. And the mode you need to figure out on your own. Quiz grades for 10 students are provided below. Solve for the mean, median, and mode. Well, the mode we can figure out pretty quick. Mode. Well, here's what we'll do. Mode, median, and mean. Actually, I'm going to relabel it X bar. Okay. Why don't you pause the video now, see if you can figure it out, and then see if your answers match my answers. So go ahead and pause. So for the mode, I get 1, 2, 3, 4 8s. So my mode is 8. I'm going to use my calculator to figure out the rest of it. So I've got a 10, a 7, an 8, an 8, a 9, a 7, a 10, an 8, a 9, and another 8. So for my mean, my sample mean, I got 8.4. And my median, I got 8. Okay. So that takes care of number 2. Now this one here, number 3, this is a weighted average. Okay. Because it says at the end of the semester you have the following averages. Chapter exams are 83, homework quizzes are 90, your final exam was a 60, and your participation is 100. So if I don't remember exactly. So all of these were weighted differently according to the syllabus. I believe chapter exams, I'm trying to think now, homework, I believe is 20%. Your final exam is 20%. participation is 10%. And then your chapter exams are 60%. I'm doing this from memory. I don't have the syllabus right in front of me. Nope, sorry, that would be 50. Right, because that's 20, 40, 50, and 50 is 100. Okay, so there's a couple ways to figure this out. Okay, if you want to use your calculator, you're going to use list 1 and you're going to use list 2. List 1 is going to go the data. So you have chapter exams, you have an 83 on your chapter exams, but the chapter exams count for 50%. So it's going to be 83 and 50 right next to each other in list 1 and list 2. Now we're going to move on to our homework quizzes, which is 90. Homework counts as 20%, so we're going to put 20 in list 2. Final exam was a 60. That counts for 20%. And then your 100 in participation only counts for 10. So there's list 1 and list 2. So stat edit, So list 1 is going to be the 83, the 90, the 60, and the 100. All right, so this is your data list. List 2 is your frequency list. So we're going to type in 50. Oop, no, we're not. Delete. So it's going to be 50, 20, 20, and 10. So this is data. This is frequency. So the 83 is going to count 50 times. The 90 is going to count 20 times. The 60 is going to count 20 times. The 100 is only going to count 10 times. So stat, calc, we're still going to use one var stats. So list 1 is our frequency list. List 2 is going to be, list 1 is our data list, or our list. List 2 is going to be our frequency. So to get list 2, we're going to do second L2 and press enter. And then we're going to calculate. So we end up having a sample mean of 81.5. The median is an 83. Now the mode, a lot of students have trouble figuring this one out. Remember, this is the frequency part of it. Which of these occurs the most frequently, right? So the 50 times, an 83 occurs 50 times, so your mode is an 83. Okay. Now the median and the mode you figure out by hand. The mean, the calculator did it for us. Another way to figure this out by hand is that each of these count as a percentage. So you can do 83 times 0.5 plus 90 times 0.2 plus 60 times 0.2 plus 100 times 0.10. So you take each of these, multiply it by the percent that it counts, and then add it all together, and you should still get 81.5. It didn't work for me. Oh, that's why. There we go. You get 81.5 for what this equals. Okay. So it works either way. This method will work if you have percents. Okay. It will not work if you have the numbers as not percents. If they were not percents, it'd be 83. So this is method 1, method 2. A third way to do it, if you're using that idea of weights, would be 83 times 50 plus 90 times 20 plus 60 times 20 plus 100 times 10 divided by, so that's the data times the weight, divided by 50 plus 20 plus 20 plus 10 would still give you 81.5. So that's a third way to figure out a weighted mean. From my own personal experience, I find using the calculator really is the most efficient way to go about doing it. But then again, you have to know what you're doing with the calculator. So this will actually conclude our first video. Our next video, we'll talk about measures of variance. So thank you.